Hello, welcome to episode 175 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 movies you must see before you die. After a rough couple of entries with films like Land Without Bread and Flaming Creatures, I decided to go for something I knew that I would enjoy, and it's a film I've been waiting to see. Ever since I was a kid, really, when I heard about it, growing up, watching kind of the old kind of special features on the Star Wars videos and things like that, and then the Lord of the Rings extras talking about Errol Flynn and the great Robin Hood movie of the 1930s. It is The Adventures of Robin Hood from 1938, starring Errol Flynn as the swashbuckling Robin Hood, a character that has been done in many different forms over the years, but this is one of the gold standards of the character, the one film that a lot of people point to as being the classic Robin Hood. Obviously there were the Robin Hood adaptations in the silent era, and again beyond, even just things like Mel Brooks's Robin Hood, Men in Tights. So all sorts of iterations of the character, but this one, I can see why it's as iconic as it is, because Errol Flynn is just fantastic in the role. And I've been reading up bits and pieces about the actors and things like that, and the cast in this film is just, it's stunning. And the story, fairly simple to follow. The King Richard has gone away, and his brother has been left behind and is plotting to take over. Prince John is basically got his sights set on being the king, and he's played by Claude, who I just adore. I love Claude so much, and I didn't realize it was him till halfway through the film. I was like, that's Claude. He's phenomenal as always, and he's great at playing so many different kinds of roles, and he was great at playing this very dastardly brother of the king who was seeking to take over the throne and to take over the land and tax the poor people even more than they're already being taxed. And you know, it's basically about the big man squashing the little man. And so Robin Hood basically rallies together all the poor people to fight against Prince John. And there's a woman there, Lady Marion, who is you know, with Prince John, and she's kind of being courted by Gisborne, and I think that was his name. And so she's kind of, you know, in the royal circle, and she slowly is introduced to this Robin Hood character as this nefarious guy who's just, you know, an absolute blight on society, and she's kind of charmed by him but doesn't agree with, you know, what he does, until the film goes on and she starts to really understand what Robin Hood is doing, and that all he really is doing is the right thing. And I like how they touch on the fact that, yeah, he still murders people. You know, she's like, well, you still kill people, you know, that's what, you know, these so-called bad men who you're fighting against do. And he's like, yeah, well, I only kill men who, you know, who deserve it, basically. And so, yeah, there's a bit of grey area there in terms of the morality of it, but yeah, ultimately this film is just a complete thrill ride of action, of production. You know, 1938, glorious technicolor. I mean, colour was around in the 30s, but it wasn't around in a lot of films, and they actually used every single, like, existing technicolor camera in the making of this film. There's only about 12, 13 of them that existed in the world at the time. They used all of them. And this is such a big budget production that it's just a joy to watch. You got the big sets, you got the colourful costumes, and I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of colourful medieval costume drama. You know, I just don't like the look of it, basically. But if it's a film that's as enjoyable as this, that kind of aspect kind of melts away a little bit. And there's some impressive matte paintings in this. The film looks gorgeous, but really it's the acting that sells it. You got some great kind of bit parts by the guys who play Little John and Friar Tuck. I loved the Friar Tuck sequence. Friar Tuck, the actor who played him in this, reminded me of Buster Keaton a little bit in terms of his kind of raspy voice, and I kind of found myself thinking, if only a fat Buster Keaton had played this part. But still, he was great. I wish he'd been in it more. Like, we get kind of these quasi-lengthy setups to Little John and Friar Tuck joining Robin Hood's crew, and then once they've joined the crew, they don't really have any more, you know, singular scenes in the film. They're kind of just there. But Olivia, who plays Marion, she was great in the film. I mean, she is just got this luminous presence, and so did her sister, Joan Fontaine. I mean, those two were just born to be on the screen, and they both did in many great roles. I love her in Olivia, that is. I love her in Gone with the Wind. You know, and obviously Gone with the Wind is built around the two main stars, but I really loved Olivia de Havilland in that film. I thought she was fantastic as Melanie. But the romance between Marion and Robin Hood is just so fun to watch and so believable. They got a good chemistry together. I love the scene when he is snooping on her, and she professes her love to Bess. And so it's this really funny kind of scene between them. And the dialogue is really sharp and witty. There's some really funny one-liners in this that just make you laugh, like really clever writing, but also clever delivery. It takes kind of a talent to write clever, funny, quippy lines for a film, but you also need the talent to deliver it convincingly, and that's what you get in this film. Errol Flynn was just a master of putting on that charm, you know, and it's a shtick, you know, it very much is a shtick, and you're either going to like it or you're not, and I did, and I thought that he was fantastic, and I was glad that he got captured during the film, because it was starting to feel like he was just this infallible character who could do no wrong and would always save the day. So when he finally got captured and stuff, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, and now she has to save him. So if it wasn't for Marion and kind of their love kind of being kindled, then he probably would have been done for. So I like that element of the film quite a lot. Again, just the production, it's so fun to see these huge sets, loads of extras, a believable world, and the sword play is just phenomenal. The final sword duel between Robin Hood and Gisborne is just amazing. I loved it. I mean, it wasn't like this incredible kind of, well, it was really good choreography, but what really made it stand out was the staging, you know, going down the spiral staircase, that iconic image, and then it just keeps on going. And there's a fantastic shot where they're fighting past this candle stand that's just fallen over. They kind of duel out of sight, and then suddenly you see a big stone pillar cast up with their shadow of them fighting, and then they come back into frame. Just an amazing shot. So cool. I just had a big smile on my face watching that sword fight at the end. It's just a great swashbuckling adventure. You know, Errol Flynn was absolutely the heir apparent to Douglas Fairbanks, and picked it up with, you know, little to no slack. Like, he's just wonderful in the film. And I was reading up about him, had a very interesting life, Australian, and was always getting in trouble in school, you know, and just was never, you know, and even when he became a big movie star, he was plagued with, you know, troubles of alcohol, women, and all that kind of stuff. And he even said that he thought that this role was a pretty boring one, but I tell you what, I was anything but bored with this film. There's some great moments in it, just great iconic scenes. As I said, the fight on the stairs, but also the when he shoots the arrow through the arrow, like, that's just a phenomenal moment of holy shit. So suffice to say, I loved this film. Is it this film you should see before you die? Absolutely. This just informed, you know, a whole other generation of filmmakers to be inspired by the thrill of the adventure and the action that you see in this film. It's just a really fun film to watch. It's just a nice, good old time with good acting, a good story, and an ending that kind of makes you kind of get roused up, and, you know, the good guys win. Obviously, spoilers. Yeah, I loved it. I really loved it. I'll definitely be going back to it again. The Blu-ray looked really good, but there's an option on there which I found really cool. I haven't done it yet, but they introduced kind of like a night at the movies in 1938. So you can watch Robin Hood on the Blu-ray, preceded by a trailer for Angels with Dirty Faces, a newsreel from World War II, which is about a minute long, a short musical, which is about 7 minutes long, and then a short Looney Tunes cartoon, and then the main feature. So you can kind of emulate what it would be like to go and watch this in the cinema in 1938. Rough approximation anyway. They're not sure on the actual films themselves, but they were all pieces that were shown in 1938. So I don't know why I added that in there, but I thought it was a really cool thing on the Blu-ray. Yeah, The Adventures of Robin Hood, fantastic. Absolutely loved it. Top marks from me. Definitely a film you should see before you die. And that's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.